We talk a lot about rebuilding after disasters, after loss, after fires. But what if rebuilding isn't just about putting up new structures? What if it starts a layer beneath that? What if we rebuild from the ground up? And what I mean by ground is very literally the soil. Because everything we build, eat, and depend on starts with one living thing most of us never think about, and that's the soil. Healthy soil, it grows our food, it filters water, it captures and releases carbon, it supports this beautiful ecosystem that we live in. And when the soil is healthy, communities thrive. When it's damaged, on the other hand, anything that you put on it, communities, homes, and gardens, is put at risk. The Eaton fire burned through historic Altadena, and with that, our beautiful old historic homes, releasing decades of toxins into the soil. It also burned down the Altadena Community Garden, which has stood for 50 years as a symbol of community cooperation and growth. Half of our members have lost their homes. The other half, their homes are severely damaged, and years and decades of their work cultivating the land is now gone. And for myself, the loss is not just communal in the garden and in the community. It's also personal. As my family, we also lost our home, as my family has lived in Altadena for almost 40 years now. And so, after the fire, at the garden, we asked ourselves, what does it look like to rebuild something so historic that has so much legacy in it? How do you restore the garden, the soil, the health of the community? And as true gardeners, of course, we knew that rebuilding and restoration isn't just about what you put on the land. It's also about what you nurture beneath it. And that starts with the soil. And so we partnered with researchers and scientists from SoilWise, Metabolic Studio, LA County Master Gardeners, Cal State Channel Islands, to learn and understand what it looks like to safely restore the soil. And in that process, we learned about a concept that felt both ancient and cutting edge. And that process is called mycoremediation. Don't worry, I'll say it again. Mycoremediation. Now, mycoremediation is the process of using mushrooms to clean the earth. Now, when most of us think of mushrooms, we think of our pizza toppings, but they are so much more, so much more. So when we think of mushrooms, most of us think about what we see above the ground. That's the fruiting body for most mushrooms, is above the ground. But underneath each mushroom is a vast network called mycelium. Now think of mycelium as the roots of mushrooms, tiny thread-like roots that connect plants and trees. And mycelium does many incredible, fascinating, and interesting things for the soil. But one thing that it does that's of particular interest to us is it has the ability to take toxins, break them down, and transform them into less harmful organic material. It takes one thing and transforms it into another. So what was toxic is no longer toxic. And think of mycelium, some mycelium, in a way it eats the toxins in the soil and transforms it into food for the soil. And it's the mycelium that is key to the process of mycoremediation. So mycoremediation, it has been used to clean up oil spills, heavy metals, microplastics from soil. And it's also been experimented with in other fire remediations. It is literally nature's cleaning system. It's sustainable, it's affordable, and it's alive. And so at the garden, that's where we started. We worked with local farmers to collect the mycelium roots, these mushroom roots. We brought them to the garden. We broke them down into smaller pieces, and we worked the mycelium into the soil. And week by week, side by side, literally even yesterday, gardeners, volunteers, and partners of the community work to restore the health of the soil. Now, our hope is that over time, the mycelium will work through any remaining contaminants in the soil and will allow new roots and new plants to grow strong in the garden's future. It's quiet but powerful work, and it's a reminder that sometimes the best technology for healing the earth is nature itself. And so, the garden is slowly coming back to life. And much in the same manner as how the garden was birthed. This is not the first time our community has faced bare ground and big questions. But for that, let's go back about 50 years to the start of the Altadena Community Garden. So 50 years ago, a group of people from our community gathered just south of Loma Alta on a dry and barren lot. Very much like what many of our homes look like today. The land was hard and compacted. It was lifeless, possibly toxic. It had once been the site of the Mount Low Military Academy. They didn't have a budget. They didn't have a blueprint per se, and they didn't have much experience to navigate what they were presented with. If that also sounds familiar to anyone here today. But they had a belief, and they believed that growing food together could help their community grow stronger. And so they honestly just went for it. They didn't have much of a blueprint, but they got one together. They planned, they organized, they laid out the infrastructure, they built the walkways, set out the garden plot lines, built fences and irrigation. And they worked week by week and side by side to transform lifeless ground into a thriving garden nestled at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains. The Altadena Community Garden, the beautiful shared space that many of us know, also started with dry, lifeless ground. And it's the same values that helped birth that garden that we see here: community, cooperation, and frankly, a little bit of creative experimentation that we all collectively need as we rebuild Altadena. And so at the garden, we are learning, we are adapting, we're experimenting. We do not have all the answers. Will mycoremediation work? We believe so, and we hope so. Is it scalable? We're working on that. But what we do learn in this process, we plan to share with the community in hopes that mycoremediation can be used as a tool to help restore soil health in Altadena. Because when the soil is healthy, worms return, birds follow, plants and vegetables grow richer, people connect to nature, people connect to each other to create what many of us already know as beautiful Altadena. And maybe, just maybe in, let's say 50 years from now, there'll be another generation looking back at this moment, and they won't just see a garden, and they won't just see a community, but they will see dedicated neighbors who were committed to seeding a healthier and more resilient future for Altadena. Thank you. Thank you.